WBCs nationwide, this is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the palatial yet not overly ostentatious studios of 365 Sports here in beautiful New York City. Welcome on in to another week and a Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports. You could always give me a follow on the good old cesspool of Twitter or on Instagram where I'm straight flexing at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Or you can get at me on TikTok at the Zach Gelb Show. But most importantly, youtube.com/@365sportsyt, youtube.com/@365sportsyt, whether you're listening and watching us live now, or if you're consuming us after we end our show, Monday through Fridays from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 to 3 p.m. Central Time. Just make sure you go to youtube.com/@365sportsyt. Subscribe. Steve Lapis, the former college basketball coach, now does a great job calling all these games for the NCAA tournament via CBS, TNT, TBS, whatever channel the game is on. He is going to join us coming up at the top of the hour, right at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Let's start with the bracket because your bracket's out. Everyone wants to fill in your bracket over the course of the next few days before the actual tournament gets underway on Thursday. I know you got first four games on Tuesday and Wednesday in Dayton, Ohio. I've never really been enamored with the first four. I understand you could have teams that get into the tournament and go on runs that have intrigue. Miami of Ohio is going to be interesting after they lost to a friend of the show in Frank Martin at UMass, and they gave them their first loss of the season. And the Redhawks have been playing with a little bit of fire through the last 2.5, 3 weeks, and they were undefeated at the time, and now they're undefeated no more, losing their first game of the season in conference tournament play. There was this big debate, should Miami of Ohio get in? I don't understand. I don't care in what conference you play in, as long as you have access to March Madness in Division I basketball. If you're undefeated in your regular season, and I'm not saying that Miami of Ohio is going to even win the first four game, let alone go on a further run in the NCAA tournament. Like even if they lose by 30 points in the first four, as long as you are undefeated in the regular season, I don't care what conference, how big, how small, you got to get into the NCAA tournament. Like I don't want to hear people bitching and complaining about Auburn not getting in when they have double-digit losses. It's ridiculous. They definitely deserve to get in. I never thought the committee was going to screw them. The question just did become, would they have an outright bid, and would they have to maybe play their way into a first-round matchup? But now they're going to have to play themselves into a first-round matchup. So let's get to it. I'll give you my 5 reactions to the bracket. I'll give you some honorable mentions. We just talked about Miami of Ohio. I have an honorable mention of Michigan and Purdue. I know we just saw that in the Big Ten championship game, and I like that Purdue team, and I know that Purdue did win the Big Ten championship. I did about 3 or 4 Purdue games this year for Compass Media Networks, and I saw them at times look really locked in, and other times like up against Michigan State. And Tom Izzo's squad ended up winning that, I think, for the first time at Mackey Arena since 2014, if memory serves me right. But when you have senior leadership, and that's not easy to come by in this sport these days. Number one, not a lot of kids stay for 4 years. Number two, not a lot of kids stay at 4 years at the same institution. But when you have Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith, and Trey Kaufman-Renn, that is a nice little nucleus. And you have, a kid from Israel off the bench who's done a good job. And there's one other player that comes off the bench for Purdue that I do like, that they can get hot, especially from 3. So I look at Purdue, nice Big Ten championship now for Matt Painter. Can you take it the next step? Can you maybe go to a Final Four? And obviously, we've seen Purdue before get to a national championship when Zach Edey was there, and they didn't end up winning, and they were the runner-up. But you look at that trio, they have experience. They have really good guard play. Braden Smith, outside of Jeremy Fierce Jr., I believe has the second most assists in the country this season per game. So Purdue and Michigan are honorable mentions to me, where 2 weeks ago it would have been, Michigan's much better than Purdue. But Purdue wins the Big Ten championship. And now what can they do with that? Or is that Big Ten championship just going to be the highlight of the season? As for Michigan, I love Dusty May. I'm a huge fan of Dusty May. And we all know what he did with Florida Atlantic last year at Michigan, his first year there. They end up winning the Big Ten Conference Tournament, and they end up being Big Ten Conference Tournament champions. And they had a respectable showing in March. Now, it does feel like anything short of getting to a Final Four would be an epic disappointment. I look at the draw for Michigan. It's not the craziest draw in the world. Who could potentially prevent them? They will get out of the first weekend. I don't see Georgia or St. Louis, and I know everyone loves that coach Schertz, but I don't see either finding a way to upset Michigan, in that first weekend. Then after that, Texas Tech, they've been respectable down the stretch, even after losing JT Toppin. Alabama, we'll get into more about the arrest in just a bit. Tennessee, Rick Barnes, March isn't always his best time. I know Virginia had a nice showing in the ACC championship game when they lost. I wouldn't surprise me if Santa Clara beats Kentucky. Iowa State is a heck of a team. But when you look at that draw for Michigan, if Michigan does not get to the Final Four this year, and I will say this, even someone that likes Michigan and roots for Michigan, more so the football than the basketball, but I am an enormous fan of Dusty May. Like, let's just call it what it is. It would be a catastrophic failure. And this has been someone that I've thought all year, and Laxel Lendenborg's a really good player. I know that they lost the guard, Kasem, but I looked at Michigan all throughout the year, and I said, they're really good. But there's a difference between really good and great. And when they were playing our nation's capital up against Duke, who I do believe is the best team in this tournament, we'll see if Duke ends up winning it all, as Duke has two potential injury concerns as well. But when I look at Michigan and that performance up against Duke, it did create some skepticism, and it did make me say, are they just a really, really good team, or can they be a great team? And it felt like up against Duke, it was more of the former rather than the latter. So Michigan and Purdue are some honorable mentions. I think the freshmen in this tournament, and we'll get more in just a bit, but two in particular, AJ DeBansa with BYU, who did not play well down the stretch. Darren Peterson. It's funny. 3 weeks ago, I would have argued that probably Darren Peterson is the biggest story in college basketball. And, we did that as a segment, 5 March Madness potential storylines. When the bracket came out yesterday, and even though Peterson is a heck of a player, and I know Kansas is in the toughest region, but when their name came out yesterday, it didn't really just sit there and make me feel like Peterson is this huge storyline, just because I don't know what to really expect out of him. And yeah, they'll probably, I would imagine that Kansas gets through the first round, then they'll probably play St. John's. I would trust the grittiness of a Pitino squad more than the up and down play and the inconsistencies, and not knowing what to really expect out of Darren Peterson this time of the year. Other storylines here. I just talked about the Alabama arrest. Aiden Holloway. That was this morning, their second leading scorer. This is from CBS Sports. Alabama star Aiden Holloway was arrested Monday on drug possession charges. Spokesperson for the Tuscaloosa Police Department told 24/7 Sports. The West Alabama Narcotics Task Force searched Holloway's residence and reportedly discovered more than a pound of marijuana paraphernalia and cash. Holloway has been charged with first-degree possession of marijuana and failure to affix a tax stamp. He was transported to the Tuscaloosa County Jail on Monday morning with a bond set for $5,000. Junior guard is the Crimson Tide's second leading scorer this season at 16.8 points per game and is shooting 48.1% clip. I mentioned that the Michigan draw is not that bad. And you look at the bottom right of that bracket, Alabama, before that news, and I don't know what it's going to mean. I thought maybe 3 teams that could get to the Final Four out of that region. I thought of Michigan. I thought of Iowa State. And just because of their ability to score and through the last few years under Nate Oates, just how they basically lead the country in scoring, I thought, okay, maybe I could rock and roll with the Crimson Tide. But I don't know about you, Garrett. I haven't seen anything since this arrest. And I know I could sit there and just say, hey, it's just marijuana.
Right.
But when you get arrested for drug charges, and now the story, like, because of the fact that it is a college kid, and you get in this weird spot because they're basically professionals, but where they are representing an institution, I do wonder if they're going to be able to play right away in this NCAA tournament. Like, could they just slap him on the wrist? I know Speedy Claxton is the coach at Hofstra, and just go, okay, we could beat Hofstra without him. We got to send this kid a message. I guess so. Obviously there's been more serious issues in the past with this Alabama basketball team. You go to the Brandon Miller situation, and then his teammate, obviously, that committed the biggest sin. So if memory serves right, they let Miller play through all of that. So I don't know, like, I may be speaking out of my ass here. I like, hey, 5-10 years ago, a marijuana charge, it would have been this big deal. In the year of 2026, I don't know what the punitive action, if any, is going to be by the Alabama basketball team.
No, it's a really good point. I think given the history there, if you're Nate Oates, like, you probably should come out and sit him. But if you go back and look at how everything unfolded in the past, more than likely he would be able to play. I would say my perspective on this, just an outsider looking in, if you have a pound and you've got cash, more than that, to me, that tells me you're selling. Like, I'm reading between the lines, that tells me you're selling. I would have to say I'm not playing him, but due process, legal, and all of that, we'll have to see. But I would not expect him to play in the first round of the NCAA tournament.
Is my audio okay? Just wondering.
Yeah.
Okay. I see a comment on the YouTube chat. The audio is F, sir. So I didn't know. I had like some cords that just fell, so I didn't know if anything was wrong there. But I'm good. Okay. Well, maybe someone's speaker is F. And this is the other thing too with the Alabama situation. And I don't know how the school is going to respond to it. And I know this time of the year you don't want to take anything for granted, but, like, should they be able to beat Hofstra without him? Yes. Yeah. And then even if they wanted to sit him for, let's say, the first weekend, and I don't know how the legal process is going to play out in the interim, you're going to get the winner of Texas Tech and Akron. Mm-hmm. Now, I've been impressed with Texas Tech ever since losing JT Toppin, but they did lose JT Toppin. So it's like one of those things where I go, can Alabama without Holloway get out of the first weekend? I would say yes. Now, I know coaches aren't going to operate that way because they're all nuts and they're not going to take anything for granted. But yeah, I do think that Alabama can rely on other people to find a way to kind of get through this if they do want to send a little bit of a statement to Holloway. I just don't know from afar. And once again, I don't have the specifics. I am not a lawyer. I am not an attorney. But just reading this and saying that, obviously you don't want the narcotics task force at your home. But when you find out that he's been charged with first-degree possession of marijuana and failure to affix a tax stamp, I can't sit here and say without certainty that there's going to be a big punitive action that I would anticipate from the Alabama basketball program.
No, I think honestly, dude, like, realistically, I think they could make it through the first two rounds without him.
Yeah.
I really do. But that Michigan one, even if he plays and they're going up against Michigan, I don't think they're beating Michigan. I just don't see it.
Yeah. And the other part that I would say here too is in the year of 2026, sure, a basketball player getting arrested right after Selection Sunday is never good news.
Right.
It will be in the news cycle. I do think the public reaction can impact what they could get away with. And personally, for a marijuana charge, and I don't even know what the tax stamp thing is.
To me, that's not being able to file taxes on the amount of money you could be making off of the pound selling it.
Oh, okay.
You're not
Gotcha.
paying your tax. It's all about not paying your taxes.
Yes. So I don't think that there's going to be an appetite of outrage with this story.
No.
It's not as if he murdered someone, or it's not as if like he had a DUI or beat up a woman or something
Correct.
like that. You know, if those stories happen, you know, alleged murder, whoa, yeah, you can't play him. Well, who knows with Alabama. Or if it was DUI, yeah, if, you know, you could kill someone. If it was, you know, he beat up his girlfriend, yeah, shouldn't be playing. And I understand we live in a world of innocent until proven guilty, but a marijuana charge, and I'm not saying that he's in the right. Like the law's there, or the law's there. I'm not really equipped with it, but he got arrested for it. I think with how state by state it is now, where if this happened like in New York, you know, I've had friends when I was growing up that got arrested because they were smoking pot in a park in New York City. Now you walk around the city, you get a contact high just by stepping off the subway. So I don't think there will be a demand from the public in saying, hey, we need this action to happen to Alabama. So, you know, those are my honorable mentions with this March Madness. Michigan, Purdue, AJ DeBanza, Darren Peterson, Holloway getting arrested, and then what is going to happen to Miami, Ohio in this run in March. Now, let's get into my 5 reactions to the bracket that are not honorable mentions. What did you make of Arkansas over the weekend, Garrett? Because my question here, is this the year that Calipari gets back to the Final Four? I don't know if they have the best freshman in the country, right? Because you could go Boozer, DeBanza, Peterson, but Acuff has been so special and so good. I think it was that double overtime game where he was unbelievable up against, who was it? I think it was Alabama, if memory serves me right, which was just, he went for a crazy performance. For them to end up winning the SEC, and I know it wasn't the, you know, some crazy road that they had to go through in the SEC tournament. I always like Calipari. I know he's not everybody's cup of tea, but his guard is unbelievable. And they have a very good coach, and they have an unbelievable guard. And this time of the year, if you have unbelievable guards and a player that could just take over a game like Acuff can, he's someone that it does scratch the itch where, okay, he had a very good regular season. Then they go on this run and they win the SEC tournament. I don't know how many people thought Arkansas was going to win the SEC tournament when it did commence. And now it's okay. Can you then take it to a Final Four, which I don't think is a crazy thing to say, because you look at the region that they got, and don't get me wrong, Arizona's the team to beat in that region. But can we see Kevin Willard in his first year at Villanova getting to the Final Four? No. You got Utah State, you got Wisconsin, you got High Point, you got BYU, you got Gonzaga, you got Miami, you got Missouri, you got Purdue. Like, I look at that. If you weren't going to have a 1, 2, or 3 get to the Final Four, I could see Arkansas, even though you got Koa Pete and you got Braden Berries with Arizona, and we'll get more into Tommy Lloyd in just a bit. It would not shock me with that guard. And I know people have been down on Calipari through the years with how the ending happened at Kentucky. If the Razorbacks end up just riding the hot hand here and get all the way to the Final Four this year.
It's possible. I honestly, I think the furthest they could get in my mind would be the Elite Eight. I don't see them getting past Arizona. I just think that's a really bad matchup. And I feel like that's a collision course that we're seeing as we're going to see this unfold towards the Sweet 16. But if it comes down to that game, and it's Arizona and it's Arkansas, and it comes down to like clutch coaching, I might give the nod to Coach Cal over Tommy Lloyd in that situation. I'm just having a hard time seeing the Hogs get past the Sweet 16.
So my second storyline here, and I always say this, in college sports, even though now we're in an NIL era and the players have more power than ever before, but because how much the players move, how players really don't stay, college coaches still are the face of the sport. In football, face of the sport, and you got to stay there for 3 years. In college basketball, even more so the face of the sport. If I had to just ask you, Garrett, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who are the two coaches in college basketball that are the two biggest names coaching-wise? Not like who's the best coach, but in terms of face of the sport right now, the first two coaches, when you factor in personality, one is obvious. The other one, maybe you could have some tiebreakers. Who would those two coaches be for you?
For me, if I'm going face right now, I would say Kelvin Sampson and Danny Hurley.
So Danny Hurley was the obvious one. And this is storyline number 2. I'm just curious. And Danny Hurley's obviously looking for that third national championship. They went back-to-back. Then they lost last year, I think in the round of 32, if memory serves me right. Maybe in the Sweet 16, but they lost early. And Hurley lost early. Ooh, that kind of rhymes. Yeah. And then I would say it's still Rick Pitino. Like, I understand St. John's is not, it's not Kentucky. It's not Louisville. Mm-hmm. St. John's 25 years ago, different story. But for most of my life, as someone that's 31 years old living here in the New York area, St. John's has not been this big story. But Pitino, when he had that falling out at Louisville in the aftermath of all that, and then he's coaching, I think, in Greece somewhere, and he lands at Iona, and he's in the NCAA tournament, the Gales of Iona. When he gets a St. John's job, yeah, sure, he was going to get the funding from Mike Rapoli. There was going to be a buzz. But to win the Big East Conference tournament the last 2 years, and I know he had the falling out with R.J. Lewis last year, and that played out ugly up against Arkansas, and I thought it was a mistake. But Zuby Ejiofor is such a special, diverse player, and one of the more diverse players in all of college basketball. For Pitino to have what I gather is his last chapter, I think Pitino's going to end his coaching career in college, coaching at St. John's. For Pitino and Hurley to obviously, we all knew they were going to make the NCAA tournament. I thought St. John should have got a better seed. But you throw them in a region with Duke. You throw them in a region with Louisville, with Michigan State. It's one of those things where those two coaches are the two biggest names I think that they have in the sport. Pitino with the long history, Hurley with the now, where I'm just curious when Duke feels like they're the team to beat in this NCAA tournament. If Duke doesn't get there, let me ask you this, Garrett. If Duke doesn't get there with the other teams that are in this region, Siena, Ohio State, TCU, St. John's, Northern Iowa, Kansas, Cal Baptist, Louisville, South Florida, Michigan State, North Dakota, UCLA, UCF, UConn, and Furman. I'm assuming you would say then the Huskies would get there if Duke is not going to get there, right?
Yeah, I would say it would come down to, honestly, it would come down to St. John's or UConn in that matter. It would be the winner of that game would be the one that comes out, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I know that Michigan State has a heck of a guard who's a little bit dirty in Fears Jr. Kansas, it's tough for me to get all bought in. Like, I would love to see. You know what I think would be a fun story? Now, the guy has not approached this year the right way. But could you imagine if Darren Peterson just says, F it, I'm gonna show everyone that's doubted me, even though there was reason to doubt me wrong, and then you have Kansas in the Final Four?
That would be funny, honestly. I think that would give Bill Self some needed all of the flack you were talking about me and not handling my program. That would let him kind of boast, I still know what I'm doing here. No, it would be a fun story, honestly. And
do you think this is it? Do you think this is it for Bill Self?
I'm honestly surprised he came back this year. I thought with the health problems last year, I thought he was going to wrap it up. And honestly, I think there were some things last year with how the roster at times were mismanaged, or there were some things that went down. And then you have the way things unfolded with Darian Peterson this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he hung it up. So
I tend to look for signs where in the past, how did I miss the sign when a coach just retires and you think, oh, he still had more to give. I look at Bill Self, how earlier in the year he was defending Darren Peterson, and then as the season did get on, he kind of let the toothpaste get a little bit out of the tube. I get kind of that feeling that this may be it for Bill Self. Now, if they end up losing earlier than expected, maybe he stays. But when your legacy is already cemented like that, I don't think Bill Self is going to be the guy that ends up chasing the perfect ending.
I don't think so either. And I also think like with the Big 12 as a whole has gotten as deep as it is now, and Kansas is no longer like the almost given the front runner every year. Why not get out right now? And they're just kind of right off into the sunset. I don't think he likes coaching in the current landscape. Like you might as well, you've already had the health issues, just get out and enjoy it from afar.
And here's the other thing too. You know, when Coach K walks away, that doesn't impact people. When Roy Williams walks away, it doesn't impact people because they're older.
Right.
But when you see recently Jay Wright walk away, Tony Bennett walk away, and Self is obviously in that same category as Jay Wright. Bennett, I know he had the national championship, but if I had to rank those three coaches, I'd probably say Jay Wright is 1, Self is 2, and then Bennett's 3. So when you have your peers, where I don't, know their exact ages off the top of my head, but in that kind of ballpark where it's not, Coach K retiring or Roy Williams is retiring, where it's clearly older coaches, I'm sure that it does kind of go off in your brain. Hey, I'm kind of the same way, where this is the year where the player empowerment really got to me, and it's just time to get out now. I don't need this stress. And let's be real, Bill Self could still get his basketball fix. I know it's not going to be coaching, but he could go do TV. Bruce Pearl,
crush it on TV.
Bruce Pearl, another guy that ended up walking away earlier than expected. So the question to me for Bill Self is just, and maybe he's already had that determination made, but when does he say enough is enough for him personally? Talking about a coach who is older and a coach that is deserving of a national championship. Here is storyline number 3, Kelvin Sampson. You got to the national championship game last year. We've seen you've been to 3 total Final Fours, 2 with Houston. This comeback story at Houston is one of the best stories we've ever seen in the sport of college basketball. But you look at his draw, Garrett, in this, it's not the end of the world. You could argue maybe it's the easiest region. You had the defending champs in Florida in there. Yeah. I know Florida in their history before has won back-to-back national championships, but I don't think Florida is a really good team this year. They got that Princeton kid that did come over, but it's so tough to win back-to-back national championships. Nebraska is a good team, but they still got to show that they could win a first-round NCAA tournament game. UNC doesn't scare me. I do like Brad Underwood and Keaton Wagler, but I don't think they're a Final Four team. St. Mary's and Texas A&M, I don't think either are going to the Final Four. This should be another trip for Kelvin Sampson back to the Final Four. And it's going to sound weird because that should be celebrated when you make a Final Four.
Right.
When you've now done it twice, and just last year you were in the Final Four and was in the state of Texas where the Final Four was at San Antonio. Now you got to go win the national championship. And when the bracket came out yesterday, I said, good draw for Houston, another good year for the Cougars. They're the second seed in that lower left part of the bracket. Yep. And you look at Duke was the number 1 overall seed. Duke's got the toughest draw out of anybody. When you look at, the 1 or the 2 seeds, the top 2 seeds in each bracket, I look at the Houston draw and I say the Cougs should be back in the Final Four.
No, they really should. And then once you get out of the field of 32 and you start getting into the Sweet 16, if you're Houston, you should be playing back in your home city. You should be in the Toyota Center. Rice is going to be like the host school, but it will be in your own town. So if you do end up playing Florida in that rematch of a natty, it's in your own city, and you should have a fan advantage there. So I feel like this is the year for Kelvin Sampson. If not now, when? But I am intrigued with how Arizona had handled them. If there is a rematch down the road, can Houston finally get over the hump?
Yeah, and that leads in perfectly to our second biggest storyline when the bracket came out yesterday on Selection Sunday. Anything short of a Final Four appearance this year for Tommy Lloyd would be a massive failure. I know I've said this before, kind of feels Ryan Day-ish before Ryan Day won the national championship, where if you don't get the job done when it matters and you see the same problems, people go, do we really have the right guy? And then there's a lot of people in the college sports world that would be like, well, he doesn't have that many losses. Right. So how much better are you going to be able to do? And then Ryan Day, even though he lost to Michigan, ended up going on that run and winning the national championship. For Tommy Lloyd, I'm not going to say he has to go win the national championship this year, But when you've been there for the last 4 or 5 years and you've had these incredible regular season records and you don't have that many losses, but the farthest that you've gone is to the Sweet 16, who is the team that prevents Arizona from getting there when it's Long Island, Villanova, Utah State, Wisconsin, High Point? I know we just talked about Arkansas, Hawaii, BYU, Gonzaga, Kennesaw State. You got Miami, Missouri, Purdue, Queens. I would argue Arkansas or Purdue would probably be the toughest teams that stand in the way there. And if I'm Arizona, am I shaking in my boots over Purdue? I know Arkansas is a heck of a team, but am I shaking in my boots over Arkansas? Personally, Garrett, and I'm not saying Arkansas can't get it. I haven't filled up my bracket yet. I may pick Arkansas to get there because I like Coach Cal and I like the kid Acuff, but if you look at who deserves to go this year, Tommy Lloyd, you deserve to go.
No, he does. I think that honestly, when I filled my bracket out and I was looking at this, I feel like Arizona's biggest challenges are going to come in the Big Ten. It's going to be, can you get through Purdue? And if you do get through Purdue and you get into the Final Four, can you beat that Michigan team? I think you're going to have to go through the Big Ten if you want to win a national championship if you're Tommy Lloyd and the Arizona Wildcats.
And then the biggest story, it's Duke. I know that we'll see the status of their 2 players that didn't really play in the ACC, the ACC tournament. But I look at Duke with what happened last year, and I was at that game up against Houston. 7 points with 40 seconds to go, and you had Con Knipple, and you also had Cooper Flagg, and now you have another probably player of the year in Boozer. I understand there's some injury concerns with Duke going into March. I think they'll be okay. John Shire, I know, right? Great Duke player, won the national championship, beating Butler, has won a national championship. I think at least one of them as an assistant coach with Coach K, if not more than that. And now it's okay. You got to the Final Four last year, but now you're at Duke. You're not at a different school where the standard is an expectation. You have done a good job in filling in for the legend in Coach Mike Krzyzewski. Now with this team, and I would say most of us consider Duke wire to wire to be the best team in the country in college basketball. Arizona was undefeated for a while. Michigan had their say, but I think most people throughout the year would say Duke was the team that they felt like was the best team in college basketball. There's no more excuses. I understand the roster isn't identical as last year. It's quite different. But when you got to the Final Four last year for John Shire and you gagged that game away, and that's what they did, the region is the toughest one. It's a brutal draw, but let's be real. You're Duke. People don't like you. I understand the hatred may not be there as much with Coach K no longer being the head coach of that university. But still nationally, people do not like Duke. No one will have sympathy. No one's going to be sitting there and saying, oh, poor Duke, if John Shire doesn't get the job done. It's national championship or bust this year. And it's one thing, if they don't get to the national championship, but even if they lose in the Final Four, I'm not going to be sitting there and saying this is a successful season for Duke. Hey, if they get to the national championship game, and let's say it's reminiscent of UNC and Villanova, where you had Chris Jenkins just make a buzzer beater 3 to win. And, let's say Duke is playing Arizona and buries a shot right at the end that was contested. Am I going to sit there and crush John Shire? No. But with the talent that he's had the last 2 years, when you're the coach of Duke, the goal is to not hang a Final Four banner. It's to hang a national championship banner. And I think that outside of Tommy Lloyd, would you agree with this statement? Outside of Tommy Lloyd, I don't think there's a coach that's under more pressure entering this NCAA tournament than John Shire to go win the national championship, or at least get to the Final Four.
I would counter with Kelvin Sampson just because he's been there and he's come so – dude, he's been there. He's had the championship at his fingertips multiple times.
But here's the thing, and maybe I'm dead wrong on this. You have the Big 12 perspective of
it. That's another thing. It's regional. We're regional.
I remember Kelvin Sampson when Houston was in the American, and I was heckling him, after a few cervezas in, watching my Temple Owls up against him. The job that he's done at Houston is outstanding, even if he doesn't win a national championship. But the name of Houston does not get held to the same standard as what the standards are at like a Duke or UNC or even, I know that Kentucky, right? I don't trust Mark Pope's squad this year, but what the standard and the expectation is at a Kentucky. If let's say Kelvin Sampson coaches for 3 more years, they go Final Four, they go Elite Eight, and then the last year they lose unexpectedly in the Sweet 16. I think everyone's going to look back and go, what he did at Houston is unbelievable. And sometimes there's just coaches that don't end up winning a national championship. But in your world, in Big 12 country, you do wonder how many more bites out of the apple is he going to get.
And my perspective, too, isn't just that. Like, I think of Kelvin Sampson with those Indiana teams that were really good that he had the tournament. I think of Kelvin Sampson when he was at Oklahoma and he had those really good teams. I just feel like you're right, and you're totally right. From a program perspective, it's not the same. Yeah. But from like a coach, a legacy perspective, I think it's the same.
Like Bruce Pearl and Sampson, they're kind of similar. Where
vaguely.
Yeah, like Bruce Pearl obviously is more outspoken. But you look at it like both coaches that had controversies, both coaches that basically got kicked out of the sport and had to resurface somewhere else. You know, Bruce Pearl with what he did at Auburn was really unthinkable.
Yeah.
Kelvin Sampson, what he did at Houston, unthinkable. Last year, when it comes out that Bruce Pearl is left later on after the Final Four, and that announcement on Twitter where there was a thought that he was going to run for Senate, and then he basically handed the program off to his son. Yeah. No one sat there when Bruce Pearl walked away and said, man, that guy didn't win a national championship. It was, look at this recovery project that he had at Auburn. My point is, yes, if I'm a Houston fan, I'm sitting there and I'm saying, if I'm just a fan of the Cougars or if I'm in just the Big 12, Houston, you better go get the job done and go win a national championship this year. Because if you don't this year, how many more chances are you really going to get out of this with how often you've been there? That I understand what you're saying. I think the national discourse, if Kelvin Sampson doesn't win a championship and then elects to retire at the end of this year, is going to be, hey, he's been to 2 or 3 Final Fours at Houston. He salvaged his career, and it's an unbelievable story. Hats off to him.
I would agree with that.
Only one team wins March Madness. And I would say outside of the Stanley Cup, would you agree with this? Outside of the Stanley Cup, I think March Madness is the toughest trophy to win.
Probably so. Yeah, like given the draw, yeah, you're right.
And I know that, and it's also single elimination, where NBA usually in a best of 7 series, the best team wins, and sometimes the first 2 rounds aren't the most exciting. Football, college, and the NFL, extremely tough to win. But
if you get one bad matchup here, though, it's over.
Yeah, like especially recently when we've seen 16s and 15s win, which is just wild. Now, the Stanley Cup, it's that weird blend where every game does matter.
Yeah.
And even if you're up 3-1, you're not how many 3-1 comebacks have we seen? And it's just the most unexpected is this. The toughest one to predict is the Stanley Cup. And these players, it ends even if they lose or they win and it comes out, oh, this player is playing with a shattered ankle or a torn ACL. Like it's ridiculous what hockey players go through. But yeah, if we had to put I know we can't do the poll question because we only get 4 answers, but if you said college football national championship, Super Bowl, Stanley Cup, NBA finals, the President's Trophy in baseball, the Commissioner's Trophy, excuse me, that piece of metal that Rob Manfred loves, in baseball, like, what's the toughest one to win between college football, college basketball, the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball? Like, I think and the NHL would be hockey would be the toughest, and then March Madness would be the second. Like everyone fills out a bracket. Yeah. Everyone does. And there have been years where after the first weekend, you sit there and you go, 2 or 3 of my Final Four teams are gone. Yeah. Now, are there years where all the number 1 seeds go to the Final Four? Sure. But it's this one when like Loyola Chicago or George Mason, Dunk City, Florida Gulf Coast, and George May, all these like schools that you see, VCU, and you go, how the heck are they advancing this far? And there's so many. My favorite part about March Madness is this. And, I've done 10 or 11 college basketball games this year for Compass Media Networks. It's probably the most plugged in I've been to college basketball this year, probably since college. But, because a lot of times you just parachute in for the final month. But there's so many stories and players and coaches that no one's talking. Like a few years ago, Oral Roberts and Tobin Anderson. Like I became friendly with Tobin Anderson. We'll probably get him. I know he has a new job and everything. We'll probably get him on during March Madness. Like who the F before that NCAA tournament was talking about Tobin Anderson? What, a Fairleigh Dickinson, if memory serves me right? Like, there's just so many stories. Or the kid with the
from Oakland that hit all the threes.
You're talking about Jack.
Yeah.
Gokel
or Goki?
Yeah, whatever his name was. Yeah. Or Dougie Buckets with the mustache. It's like I remember being in Philly, and the opening round, the first weekend was Florida Gulf Coast, and you have Andy Enfield, and there's some kid there. I think it was it Sherwood? I forget what the guy's name was. He slams the drink down on the table, and I think the next stop that they had. Did they lose to Florida? But wherever they're going to Arlington. And he's like, Dunk City's going to Arlington. And that became a thing where I'm walking around the Wells Fargo Center, whatever the building is called now, in Philadelphia. And those players are watching the next game and they're getting mobbed. So the overnight celebrity factor in the NCAA tournament and the unknown is what makes this time of the year so fun and so special. And even for bigger programs like May, who made that incredible shot at UNC, Suggs, who had the half court to send the shot to send the team to the national championship, even when it's more known commodities and proven programs, how these games end just give me buzzer beater after buzzer beater and stories that we don't know coming. But in this year, like, I think you make the case for about 20 teams to win the national championship. And the list is not usually that long. And we have so many freshman stars where now with the one and done and the transfer portal, it's really tough to follow these guys in terms of you remember them at college, like Michael Jordan at UNC or whatever it was. And there was that long run where you remember them in college and then they go off to the pros. This is a year where there's eight freshmen that are going to be probably going in the first 10 picks of the NBA draft. Usually now the NBA draft is just foreign player after foreign player that everyone tries to be an expert of, and we don't know. The big freshman stars this year, Boozer, DeBansa, Acuff, Peterson, Wagler, like you just go through all these freshmen that we have. I hope those freshmen have huge runs in this NCAA tournament because then it creates that appetite which the NBA needs because the NBA regular season is a joke, where it's like, oh, I remember this kid going on a long run just a few months ago in March Madness, and then you actually know who he is when he gets drafted, and then you follow his rookie career, his rookie year, and just see what he does at the next level. So, that's just kind of, I know we gave you about 20 of them. As we said, we were going to give you 5 reactions, but that's the first 45 minutes of the Zach Gelb Show on this Monday on 365 Sports. We'll take a break. Steve Lappa is going to join us coming up in about 15 minutes. When we do come on back, we'll turn the page to football. Justin Fields traded to the Kansas City Chiefs. Maybe has to play a few games before we do get Patrick Mahomes back. But with so far how free agency has played out, as we are, right around the corner with the draft coming up at the end of April, a little bit over a month out, combine already behind us. What's the expectation level for Kansas City? Plus, we'll also give you an update on A.J. Brown and also delve into Kyler Murray signing with the Minnesota Vikings. This is the Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports.
You have a second?
Yeah, come on in.
Thanks. I'm having an issue with Ralph.
With Ralph?
He keeps stealing my lunch.
He's just researching new flavors.
That is slow smoked turkey.
Ralph steals my lunch all the time. You get used to it.
He also peed on my bag.
He is warming up to you. You know, starting a new job, it's a big change. I want you to think about how you can be more accommodating to Ralph. We're all co-owners here.
If I'm only wearing one suit this summer, it has to be Tuileries Performance Linen. It's wrinkle resistant, machine washable, and built with stretch and breathability that actually moves with you. It'll keep you cool, sharp, and stress-free at your next event.
What does being different mean to me? You know, that is an interesting question.
Because there really isn't one way. There's a bunch of different ways you could do it.
But love is passion. Something you can't put out. What do you want?
What's that really good non-alcoholic beer I keep hearing about?
Do you have that really great non-alcoholic beer that I keep seeing?
You mean athletic? You're looking at it.
It's athletic. Ask for it.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, welcome back in. It is the Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports. The last 2 weeks, obviously, ever since we got on here at 365 Sports, we do a plethora of football talk. Usually our filet mignon and the steak and potatoes are NFL and college football right here on this channel and also with this show, youtube.com/@ 365 Sports YT. When we're in March for this next 3 or 4 week stretch, it's going to be a ton of college basketball. Steve Lapp is going to join us in about 12 minutes from now. John Fanta, one of the best in the business covering college basketball, is going to join us coming up tomorrow. So we will have some big-time college basketball guests. I'm sure we'll get Seth Greenberg on. We'll get some coaches on, too, that are in the NCAA tournament, that aren't in the NCAA tournament, but names that you're all familiar with. So each and every day, Monday through Friday, from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 to 3 p.m. Central Time, you should be locked in right here on the Zach Gelb Show. And if you don't catch us live, you could always archive us on YouTube, where all of our episodes are posted on the live streams and wherever you get your podcasts. Just make sure you search the Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports, and you can find a way to consume our content. But let's get back to the football world here. We'll circle back to March Madness coming up once again in 12 minutes from now when Steve Lapis, the former college basketball coach, is going to join us. I look at the Justin Fields trade today. I think it's a solid move. The Chiefs give up a 6th-round pick. I'm not this big believer in Justin Fields. I thought he had an opportunity in Chicago. I thought more Chicago messed him up than he messed them up. I understand that Justin Fields did not have a perfect go there, but the decision to move off of him and go to Caleb Williams, I can't knock it. It ended up working. The Bears were in the playoffs this past year, and they even won a playoff game getting to a divisional round in a game that you could argue they should have, or at least could have, defeated the LA Rams. And Justin Fields goes to the Steelers, had a nice start. Then they ended up benching him for Russell Wilson. He goes to the Jets, and I couldn't really expect him to do much with the Jets. But when he was on the field last year, he was god-awful. However, when you go to an environment that's right, and there's going to be no expectations on him, and you could luck into something, in a small sample size, I would not be surprised if Justin Fields, if let's just say, Mahomes, because of the injury, has to miss the first 4 games of the season. If you put Justin Fields with that play caller and Eric Bieniemy, that head coach and Andy Reid, and that environment in Kansas City, it wouldn't shock me if, let's just say, Justin Fields plays 2 good games, 1 average game, 1 not so much game, but maybe the defense wins it for Kansas City. And there could be a little bit of a push where obviously when Mahomes is ready to come back, Mahomes is going to start. I don't even care if Fields is 4-0. I know, hot take. Whenever Mahomes wants to come back and play and is cleared to play, he's going to be the starter there in Kansas City. Maybe doesn't even miss 1 game, but there's a way in a concise time where Justin Fields, where I wouldn't sit there and then say, oh, my team needs to go get Justin Fields and be salivating all over Justin Fields. But there could be a team where there's so many coaches in this league that are arrogant and stubborn and go, oh, he got screwed up someplace, we could fix him, where they go, oh, look what Andy and Eric did in Kansas City with Justin Fields, and this isn't the greatest Chiefs roster in the world. We could find the way if, like, your team has a quarterback need where maybe in a short time, even though there's been a lot of damage, that someone thinks, oh, this could be the next Sam Darnold, this could be the next Baker Mayfield. Like, Malik Willis got the right GM and coach to go to a different place. Malik Willis was not great, but he had some success this year when he had to fill in for Jordan Love. And look at the contract that he just got from the Miami Dolphins. So could Justin Fields go to Kansas City, have to fill in for Mahomes if Mahomes needs a few extra weeks to get ready for the season? And could he have some success there that another team gives him an opportunity to go compete for a job next year, or, which would be 2 years from now, 2 seasons from now? That wouldn't shock me whatsoever. I think just giving around a 6th-round pick for a guy that was a 1st-round pick, was a really good college player, has not been good in the pros, for a backup option, I do believe that's worth the investment for Kansas City. But I will say this. I look at the AFC right now, and with the Chiefs losing, in the trade, trading away Trent McDuffie, losing their other cornerback as well to the Rams via free agency, I look at Kansas City this year, and I go, Jalen Watson, who was the other player that signed with the Rams, I go, I don't love the Chiefs. Now, you have Mahomes coming off the injury where he tears up his knee. Kelsey's another year older, and Kelsey's fine, but he's washed. Rashee Rice, I don't know how many games he's going to be able to play this year. Maybe they do a reunion with Tyreek Hill, but his health state is not in a good spot. Sure, they just signed Kenneth Walker, and they had the 9th overall pick. Because it's Mahomes and because it's Reed, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt. And I'm sure a ton of people are going to pick them to go to the postseason this year. But after missing the postseason, and then how many injuries were suffered too, especially at the quarterback position, if they were just bad last year and Mahomes didn't tear up his knee, I think a lot more people were going to say, oh, the Chiefs are a lock to go back to the playoffs. And probably when I do my NFL predictions, I'll give Mahomes the benefit of the doubt as you see the health progress and where that's at. And I'll probably put Kansas City in the postseason because also the AFC is wide open. But this is going to be really the first year in the last, 5 to 7 years where Kansas City is not going to be a popular Super Bowl pick. Like, whether it's winning or just getting there. And I understand you could say, well, who else are you going to gravitate towards? Like, are you going to buy the Patriots to get back? Are you going to buy the Broncos to get there? Are you really going to trust Justin Herbert? Are you going to trust the CJ Stroud? Are you going to trust the Liam Cohen? In the AFC North, Baltimore now doesn't have Max Crosby, but they did sign Trey Hendrickson. Lamar hasn't been able to beat the Chiefs or the Buffalo Bills. Is this going to be the year for Josh Allen? So there's not that great answer that you gravitate towards and you say, this is the team that will definitely be there. And if Kansas City makes the postseason, because of who their quarterback is, breaking news, folks, nobody is going to want to face Kansas City. And there's been years where we said they're vulnerable. There have been years where they've been down 20 points in a playoff game and they come on back. But I don't have this great conviction in Kansas City this year. Like, Garrett, you could tell me about 4 things with the Chiefs. If you tell me they missed the playoffs this year, I wouldn't say that's crazy. If you tell me they win the AFC West and then lose in the wild card round, a divisional round, that wouldn't be crazy. If you tell me they're in the Super Bowl and losing the Super Bowl, that wouldn't be crazy. And then if you tell me they win the Super Bowl, what am I going to do? Sit there and go, even though they've lost a lot of talent in their defense, especially in their secondary, Wide receivers, I don't know who to trust on that team at the wide receiver position. I know they bring in Kenneth Walker, who's a good player, but he's not a great player. If Mahomes wins a Super Bowl this year, I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, I can't envision that. But right now, there's just such a wide range of expectation on Kansas City. And as we get through April and May and June, July, and then August when preseason comes around, and then September when the ball does get kicked off in the air, I do wonder where people are going to gravitate towards with the Kansas City Chiefs. And right now, you could tell me anything about this team, and it would be tough for me to be able to be like, no, you're an idiot, a moron, and a dope, and refute it.
No, and I think logical people are going to take that approach. I think what it is the Chiefs now are kind of like the Patriots for a lot of people, well, other than outside of you, where you hated them. You got so sick of seeing the Patriots, and that's where you are right now with the Chiefs. And I think that anytime you have like Mahomes coming back from an injury, you have uncertainty there, people are going to jump on downing them and not having support in them to live up to their expectation. I think you see a lot of Chiefs hate this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the year they were playing for a Super Bowl.
And I know that with ACLs, people recover as quick as possible.
Right.
Now. But if you look, and I don't have numbers and data on this. This is just me watching the sport. When you come back from an ACL injury, you could have good numbers in your first year, but you're not back to the year after that. And for the quarterback position, like I remember Brady when in week 1, Bernard Pollard hit him and he tore his ACL up against the Chiefs, ironically. That next year, he was good. But Brady was good. But I didn't say, oh, that was like Tommy F. and Brady.
Right.
Until the following season again. I know he had that crazy comeback to open it up, I believe, on Monday Night Football up against the Bills in that first year back. But there's a difference in being back and then back. And I wonder if Mahomes will just be back or if he's going to be back. This is Patrick F. and Mahomes.
I think his trainer, Bobby Stroop, the way how they approach things, I think their goal is to say we are back and make a statement and prove that.
Yeah.
But the expectations, dude, really going back since Adrian Peterson, like it seems like ACLs aren't a major thing anymore. So
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a breakout year, and I also wouldn't be surprised to see him struggle. But I really think like his determination, his mindset, the people he has around him, and the core people that are going to get him rehabbed, I think you're going to see Patrick be like pretty damn legit next year.
And the Chiefs' hatred isn't as strong as the Patriot hatred. I believe in the national discourse.
Right.
The other thing is when you factor in that they just missed the playoffs the year before, Mahomes' stats hasn't been as prodigious as they were earlier in his career. I just don't think there's going to be this insane high-level expectation on Kansas City when they take the field next year. Like, as I said, you can tell me they're going to miss the playoffs. You also tell me they're going to win the Super Bowl. I wouldn't believe that. I do think that could work where maybe this is going to be the first time in forever where they're kind of flying under the radar. And if they get into the big dance and they're in the postseason, they're one of the 7 teams. And even if Buffalo has only lost 2 games and looks like they're going to be that much better than Kansas City, that mental factor, as long as 15 is on that field up against the Bills, and the Bills could have a team that is 25 times better, let's just say, until you beat them when it matters, that's the boogeyman's always going to be there. You know, same thing for Lamar Jackson with the Ravens. And like, I lived through it. You know how many times I would hear the Patriots, like the Chargers were one of those. Oh, they got more talent. And they only got 2 losses on the season. And then even the last Super Bowl Brady won in New England, that wild card weekend, I believe it was, or division round, whatever it was. I forget the structure of the playoffs. People were like, oh, the Patriots aren't going to be there. No way. They're not going to beat the Chargers, and they killed the Chargers. So that happens. And until same thing with the Steelers all the time up against the Patriots. But until you knock out Mahomes in the postseason, your Bills or the Ravens, I don't care how vulnerable that Mahomes looks with the injury and all that stuff. You're going to have to find a way to get them out. You have to find a way to knock them out. Look at Buffalo. Like Kansas City was in the postseason this past year, and Buffalo still didn't find a way to get to the Super Bowl. All righty, March Madness is here. We have the first 4 games coming up starting tomorrow. Selection Sunday, we just came off of it yesterday, and the quest to win a national championship is on. Let's welcome in a former college basketball coach, and he will be, of course, on the call for a bunch of March Madness games, and that is Steve Lapis, kind enough to join us right now on the Zach Gelb Show on 365 Sports. Coach, you look like $1 million. How are you?
I'm doing great, Zach. It's been a busy day. I had another pair of glasses around my neck. I'm wearing a pair. It's like I don't know if I'm coming or going right now.
Well, that's pretty much everyone. Once the brackets come out, I think it is John Rothstein. Like, we'll sleep in May. That pretty much is spot on with what John Rothstein had to say. When I look at the bracket that came out yesterday, I think Duke, I'm not saying they're going to win the national championship, but to me, they're the best team going into the tournament. But man, when you get the number 1 overall seed, I know no one has an easy draw, but I think they're in the toughest region right now.
There is no question, Zach. I mean, when you look at their region, the fact that they've got St. John's in there, they've got Kansas in there, who's going to be a pain in the neck. They have Michigan State in there, and then obviously, at the 2 UConn, they didn't get any favors done to them. I'll tell you that. And with those injuries, no kid. Now, obviously, they did a great job. I'll tell you that ACC championship game with Virginia was a tremendous game. No Caleb Foster. Caden Boozer stepped up big time. They got to get the big kid back, Ngamba. They have to get him back. That's going to be key. They say he's coming back, but you wonder about them because of those injuries, what that means, because their depth is really down.
And I wonder, and they've had an incredible regular season. They win the ACC championship, and in other places, right, that would be a great season for them. But with what happened last year, how they gagged away that game in the Final Four up against Houston, I was there. I still can't. I left the stadium. I couldn't believe what I just watched. I'm a talk show host. I was left speechless walking out of that stadium. I do wonder Shire, who, right, was the heir to the throne, replaced Krzyzewski, how he handles that pressure, because anything short of winning a national championship this year is going to be viewed as a disappointment.
But you think about it, this guy is a tremendous coach. I mean, he took over from the GOAT, except for John Wooden, and nobody's saying like, boy, look what followed Mike Krzyzewski. Imagine that. Nobody has complained about John Shire, and look who he followed. So he's done an unbelievable job. And yes, you're up 6 with 30-some seconds to go last year. That was unbelievable, and that's one that he will never, I always say as a coach, you have certain games, and I have a bunch, that you go to the grave with. Well, that one, he's going to the grave with that one until he gets another one. And he's going to have chances. He probably will get one. He might get this one. I just think that they were in a great shape prior to those injuries. And now, a little foul trouble in one of those, 4 games leading up to the Final Four or in the Final Four, and all of a sudden, the dream's over.
I think the toughest question in college basketball right now is what version of Darren Peterson are we going to get? Let's stay in that region. What are your expectations with the incredible freshman entering this March Madness?
I know they laid an egg, obviously, in the Big 12 tournament, but I think that team is very dangerous, and I happen to think St. John's didn't get any favors done to them either. I mean, the fact they got to go to San Diego, they're in the Eastern region, but they got to go to San Diego, and they could see Kansas, if they each win their first game, and Kansas has that, a guy like Flory Badunga and Bryson Tiller, they got really good size. How's that going to negate Ejiofor? So getting back to your question, I think that Bill Self will get Darren Peterson right. I think right now that's what this kid will be motivated to play in the NCAA tournament. I think so. I think we're going to see a different Kansas team in the tournament.
I'm 31 years old. I'm from New York. And most of the time when I was growing up, if I was going to a St. John's game, it would be to see the other team at Madison Square Garden. What Pitino has done, back-to-back Big East tournament championships. I know he's a legendary coach and he's one of the best to ever do it. But how do you put this into words, what is probably going to be his final go at it, the last stop being St. John's in his illustrious coaching career?
Well, I mean, you said it, Zach. I mean, I coached against Rick. I've known Rick for over 40 years, and obviously he's one of the best to ever do it. And, give St. John's credit, because when that job was open, I said to myself, now, I do remember when St. John's was good because I'm 40 years older than you. So there were days back then when Luke Carter II was coaching when they were good. But this guy here, he was the only guy they could hire. You knew he's like one of those guys guaranteed. It's kind of like what happened when John Calipari got the Kentucky job. I said to myself, that's who they had to hire. He's a guarantee. There are very few people out there that are guarantees. Rick Pitino is one of them because he's going to get play. And now, especially with the fact that you can, you get NIL and you can get guys if you have enough money. and now kids want to play for him because they want to go to the NBA on top of it, so they can pay. They pay well, and they got a guy there who proves that he can get guys to the NBA, which is what all these kids want. It's a home run in terms of him. And I thought that maybe in this era, because he was a player developer, so I thought maybe in this era, maybe it's not the perfect era for Rick Pitino. No, it might be more perfect than the old days because he's getting guys that are kind of already made. He makes them better, and they win right away. And every year, he's going to keep getting great players from the portal.
It's crazy just looking at the names of some of these coaches in the East region when you got Shire and you got Patino and you got Hurley and you got Self, Kelsey, Izzo, Mick Cronin even. It's wild. And I always say in college sports, the coaches are still the face of the sport, especially now more than ever with players, obviously one and done, but NIL, and a guy could go play for 3-4 teams. Hurley's the face of the sport to me. He's the biggest personality. He's got 2 national championships. I know they were looking for the three-peat last year. He didn't get it, and all the Lakers rumors from 2 years ago. This UConn team, we know what their women's team is doing, but the men's team, where's the confidence level with Coach Hurley and this squad that he has?
You know, I'm not as confident as I probably was during the season. I think we got, because the Big East wasn't great this year, we got a little skewed. They went on that big run. They won 17 in a row, whatever it was, which don't get me wrong, in any league is hard. But this team doesn't have quite the power, and they're not as I don't think they're as tough as those teams that won a national title. Now they have 2 freshmen starting that are really good players. There's no question about it. Silas Demery had a very good year. Braylon Mullins had a very good year. Solo Ball's been off and on big time. I thought he would be much better. Taris Reed has been pretty good. So I don't think they have that consistency. I don't think they have the great bench. And I don't think this team is as tough as the other ones that Danny had. And that's what Danny's about. He's about being tough. And I don't know if they have the requisite toughness that they need. I think what St. John's did to them in the Garden the other day had to be a little bit of a danger sign for them. Knowing that they got beat by them once, then they killed St. John's at the Stores that day. And now they come back and they lay an egg in that game. So I think there's got to be some concern about the Huskies.
So I know there's a chance for the games that you're getting that if Miami of Ohio wins their first round game, you'll then get them in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Did you think that was the right decision, even though they were undefeated regular season and then they lose in their conference tournament? Did you think it was the right decision to give them a chance to right that wrong come March?
Well, I'm this way and that way. And then here's my feeling. Number one, what they did this year is absolutely so hard and so incredible. And Travis Steele I'm glad to see what happened for him. He got let go at Xavier a few years ago. He comes back and now he does this. He's unbelievable. But if we're going to, I don't know, we're going to look at metrics. Do metrics tell the story about how teams get in the tournament? Because if it tells the story about the other, 36 teams, then it tells the story about them too. And their metrics were not great. I mean, let's face it. I mean, you got a team like Oklahoma that had, 5 quad 1 wins. All right, they had 10 quad 1 losses. They played so many games in them. I mean, so if we're trying to compare Oklahoma, let's say, with Miami of Ohio, if they were playing each other, who would win? I don't know. But the metrics, so that's my thing. Are we going to use metrics? Are we going to use the eye test? Are we going to use what feels good? What are we using to determine the field?
Well, I remember when I was in college, and there was one year Fran Dunphy's squad didn't get into the tournament. Everyone thought they were a lock, and I think they ended up going to the Final Four of the NIT, and they were stressing the eye test. So that was when I sat there and I go, eye test, metric, I don't know. I don't care what conference you play in. If you're undefeated in the regular season, just common sense to me, and you're not wrong. Like if they played Auburn or they played Oklahoma, they probably end up losing to them, and they haven't looked good for the last 3 weeks. But just common sense-wise, you're undefeated in the regular season. I think you deserve the right to be in the tournament in some capacity.
But again, but you know what? Then they should put that in as a stipulation that from now on, if anybody goes undefeated in the regular season, they are automatically in. But that should apply to anybody. I mean, you look at Navy this year; they were 17-1 in their league. Don't get me wrong; they weren't undefeated, but maybe that should be. Maybe they should put that in and say, okay, here's a new criteria that we're going to put in. If you go undefeated in the regular season, you deserve to be in the tournament. I don't care what your metrics are. I would go for that. I would, because I know how hard it is. I would go for that. But we can't change the rules, as they fit along the way. That's the thing that I find tough.
Let's move to the South. I know Florida is looking to win back-to-back national championships. We know when Billy Donovan was there, they did that, but that's so tough to do. Winning one is ridiculous. Winning back-to-back is nearly impossible. I know UConn did it not that long ago. I look at Houston, and I get it. They were in the national championship game a year ago. Sampson, he doesn't need a national title. I know he wants one. Everyone wants one, but he doesn't need one. What he's done at Houston is just ridiculous. Illinois is a good team there. Nebraska's had a really good season, but let's see if they get the monkey off the back in the first round. I look at Houston. I expect them to get back to the Final Four. Yourself?
I don't know, because this Houston team is not as good as last year. And I was with Kelvin last week. I had his game at Oklahoma State, and we were talking, and they're not as good. Last year, he told me last year we used to go and we could play bad and still win because we had all these guys with experience. Now he's got two freshmen starting. Kingston Fleming struggled a little bit the other day. Sinak's been big time up and down. Tugler is not a great scorer. He had 20 points the other day, he doesn't do that very often. And Sharp and Uzan are good players, but I think their margin of error is not quite what it was last year. I think last year they could play games where by only playing good defense, they could win. I don't know if that's the case this year because I don't think their defense it's good. It's very good. It's really good, but it's not quite as good as it was last year. So, and I think that Florida has a pretty good road to the, Elite Eight where they might meet Houston. I just think that they will have trouble scoring at all in the paint against Florida. That's how I'm looking at it. Now, Florida obviously didn't play well the other day against the Vanderbilt. That was obviously not a good loss, but this Florida team, I think, is I think there are four teams that are cut above everybody else. The 4-1 seeds happen to be, and I think obviously they're in a good situation and in a good bracket.
I was talking about this earlier, and I said this way: the coach that has the most pressure to win a national championship this year, to me, is John Shire. The coach, and I know it intersects a little bit, that has the most pressure to just get to the Final Four is Tommy Lloyd at Arizona. He's had some really good records the last few years in the regular season, but he hasn't got past the Sweet 16. Would you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, there's no doubt Tommy Lloyd has heat on him. You know what I mean? Because he's had some really, really good teams, and they haven't gotten that far. And you know what? There's another program that's got a little heat on him, and that's Purdue. I think that obviously he's been to a Final Four a couple of years ago. They lost to UConn. They got this core of guys that this is it for them. And I think they're another team that's like, and I think you saw some of the resolve the other day against Michigan, who was an elite team. And so I wouldn't count them out either because of their experience and everything else. But I think there's some heat on Matt Painter, or he's got the heat on him, or he puts it on himself, maybe not from the outside, that to really, really get on a big run and win the whole thing. But I agree with you. Tommy Lloyd probably has the most, and Shire.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The Purdue team, I liked how they won that Big Ten championship, but I had them, I think, 3 or 4 games for Compass Media Networks, and they lost to Michigan State. I know Michigan State's a good team, but Izzo hasn't won there since 2014, and then I've seen them bounce back. But if you're Painter, you're probably sitting there, and I know like you said, he just got to the national championship a game a few years ago. They lost to UConn. You got 3 guys that have won a ton of games there. In Kaufman-Renn, Braden Smith, and then Fletcher Lawyer. You're probably thinking to yourself, if you're Matt Painter, if it's not this year to go win a national championship, then maybe it's just never going to happen.
And that's the thing, these windows close, and I'm not saying Matt's going to have good teams always because he's a heck of a coach and kids will want to go play for him, and they got a pretty good NIL system. And just the fact that he was able to retain these guys tells you that they really like him and that the school has the wherewithal to retain good players. But, the window is not a big one. And when you got the guys, you want to make hay when you can. That's just kind of how it works. So, you never know if you're going to get that chance again. But you'd like to think that a place like Purdue, he'll have other opportunities down the road. But this is a good one.
I know Calipari is polarizing. I've always liked John. I'm always rooting for John Calipari. Acuff is unbelievable. That's a team. I know they just won the SEC tournament. How much stock are you buying in them going into March Madness?
Let me tell you something. Arizona's not going to have it easy. You know what I mean? If they end up seeing Arkansas, that's not going to be easy for Arizona. I can tell you that, because one thing about Arkansas is athletic. They've got size. They got Acuff, as you say. And, how about the other kid, Thomas, who had 29 the other day? We don't even talk about him. He's a freshman. He's their second high scorer. So, I think that they are really good. They're really athletic. We know John, what kind of coach he is. I don't think Tommy Lloyd, when he saw that, listen, to get to the Final Four, you got to beat people. There's no question about it. But because their athleticism and because they play in a tough league and now they won the league championship, that could be a tough one for Arizona.
And I know this is high praise, but I remember those UConn teams that had that run with Kemba Walker. And then they had that run years later with Shabazz Napier. I wonder if that's there for the taking for an Acuff to go on one of those types of runs.
Oh, yeah, he's got the talent. I mean, put it this way. This freshman class has been so ridiculous this year that, guy like Acuff, we didn't really start talking about him till like the end of the year. And Braden Burries from Arizona, we didn't start talking about him till we were always talking about Boozer and DeBonza and Peterson. And now, you're looking at all these guys. There's like the top 14 picks in the draft are probably all going to be freshmen. So it's going to be a matter of, what a team needs and what a team, beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. But there's no doubt that these freshmen, and Darius Acuff is a special freshman.
I love Dusty May. We also what he did at Florida Atlantic last year, first year in the Big Ten. He wins the conference tournament. This year, right, the goal is to get to the Final Four. He has a heck of a team. All throughout the year, I've been watching him. I go, they're really good, but I wonder if they're great. We saw them up against Duke lose that game in D.C. They just lost the Big Ten championship game to Purdue, like we said, veteran squad. We know actually Lundenborg's a very good player, but what's your analysis on Michigan headed into the tourney?
I think they're really good. That they're so big. They dominate them, even though they played Duke and Duke dominated them in the paint. I just think they're a little streaky shooting the ball, which could make a difference. I think losing the kid Kason, the backup point guard, was big because the other day, Cadeau didn't play great. Normally they had probably the best backup point guard in the country. They don't have him anymore. But I think that they are a Final Four team. I put it this way. People ask me my Final Four. I'm putting Michigan in there. And I think this is the best chance that the Big Ten has had to win a national championship in a long time. They haven't won one since 2000, which is kind of crazy when you think about how many teams get in every year from the Big Ten. I think that Michigan is a real possibility.
So some of the games you have, UConn firm, we already hit on UConn with you. How about UCLA and UCF as you get ready for that 7-10 matchup?
It's going to be an interesting game. Let's face it, Johnny Dawkins has done a great job. They have a very veteran team. They don't really, they got all older guys, which always is a good thing when you get to the NCAA tournament. They have a tremendous point guard named Famous Fuchs that people don't know, but trust me, was one of the best point guards in the Big 12. They have, they shoot the ball well. They play really good defense. UCLA, they're a little banged up. How's Donovan Dent? How's Bilodeau? Are those guys going to be okay? Mick sat them out in the Big Ten tournament when Bilodeau didn't play. Dent played and got hurt during the game. They didn't put him back in. So a lot depends on that. It's two of their best players, or probably their two best players. So we got to see what happens. But that should be a heck of a game.
When I look at Virginia, and I was at a bachelor party this weekend, Coach, and I'm sitting around, and one of my buddies is trying to place a bet. And we're looking at that ACC championship game, and I go, Duke's a 5.5-point favorite. I lay the points on Duke. Obviously, Duke won the game, but they didn't cover the 5.5, so I give some bad advice there. That Virginia team, they impressed me in the ACC championship. Do you think it will carry over into March Madness?
I'll tell you what, I was really not, I've seen them during the year, but now I'm studying them, so it's different. And I actually studied them today, and I'll tell you, those 5 guards they got are all good. The kids coming off the bench are good. The big kids the 2 big foreign kids are 7 feet. They both can shoot the ball. Onyensa is going nuts. He had 9 block shots against Duke. He had 21 block shots in the ACC tournament in 3 games. I think this team is really good. They shoot the ball well. They've got depth. They are the number 1 shot blocking team in America, so they can protect the paint. I think they are. They're put it this way. After watching them, they're more dangerous than I thought before I started watching them like I did now. And I was very impressed. That was a heck of a game with Duke. Really good game.
There's coaches that have been around forever and have won a ton of games, and then this time of the year, you wonder what you're going to get out of them. I know that Miami of Ohio is going to play SMU, and then you guys have that game, the winner of that one with Tennessee. What's kind of your read on Rick Barnes' squad going into this March Madness?
Jacoby Gillespie he didn't have the year that he had last year when he was at Maryland. I mean, he's a good player, don't get me wrong, but he's shooting like 40% for the season. He's still good. Nate Ament is a tremendous talent. He's had a very good year. Estrella's back, Opara's back, so they got some experience back too. But again, this team not great offensively, especially when it comes to shooting the ball. And you always, if you have an off day, and it's a good Rick Barnes defensive team, but not a great Rick Barnes. And now I have to couch that a little bit, because let's face it, when he has a great defensive team, it's like one of the top 3 in the country. I don't think he has that type of defense. He's got a good defensive team, doesn't have quite that. But I think they'll be all right in that first round game whoever they play, whether it's SMU or Miami of Ohio. I think they'll be in good shape in that.
And then one of your stops, obviously, that is most memorable has been Villanova as an assistant, and then you were eventually their head coach there. We all know Willard's a really good coach. We saw what he did at Seton Hall. Then, I didn't love the way that he left Maryland, but it's always tough to go down that road, especially when your team is winning in March Madness. Villanova going into the tournament, really good year for Willard as they start to get that program back on track.
Tough spot. They don't have Hodge, who was a 6'8" freshman that could shoot the ball, and they're not very big. They got the one kid, Brennan, who's had a great year. Duke Brennan is one of the best rebounders in the country, but they have no depth there. They're playing against a really tough Utah State team that has a lot of weapons, that plays really good on both sides of the ball. They're very good defensively. They are great offensively. I think this has the potential to be a heck of a game, and they didn't do them any favors either. Another team, they're in the East, but they're going to San Diego, which, not great for them. But I think that like most 8-9 games, that should be a really good game.
So I know you said you like Michigan to get to the Final Four. Who would then be your other 3 teams to get to the Final Four in your estimation?
I'm going to stick my neck out and stick with Duke, even though I'm a little concerned about their depth. I'm going to say Duke, Florida, Arizona, and I'm going chalk all the way in Michigan. I think the 4-1 seeds get back this year.
And that would be something if we get all 4 1 seeds in the Final Four. Is there a team, and not get to the Final Four, but maybe a team that's flying under the radar, Coach, that you're going, okay, I kind of like them, and maybe most people aren't familiar with?
I think Arkansas is a little bit flying under the radar for sure. The way they're playing right now, I think that's definitely a team that's under the radar. You would have thought maybe a week ago, not a week, 2-3 weeks ago, Texas Tech would be there, but not with what's going on with them right now.
Yeah, with Toppin.
With the injuries, and Toppin's out for the year. And I think another team that kind of, even though they won the Big Ten tournament, Purdue is dangerous, as I said, going in, and Michigan State also.
The last thing I'll ask you, Bill Self, do you think this is it for him? Do you see him walking away at the end of this year? Because that's crossed my mind through this season.
Yeah, I know people have asked him about it, and he says no, not at all. So I don't think so, but I think he loves what he does. I think it's all about his health. He's had some issues here and there, but he seems okay now. I think that's what I think he has the energy and he wants to do it. I think he keeps doing it.
He's Steve Lapis. Coach, enjoy the broadcast. Enjoy the tournament. Really appreciate you giving us some time today.
You got it, Zach. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Of course, the great Steve Lapis joining us, the Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports. So Coach is going chalk with all 4 number 1 seeds. And really, like, you look at this tournament this year, if all 4 number 1 seeds get to the Final Four, think about that. We'll have Duke and Florida. Then, what probably should have been the national championship last year. And then you would have Arizona and Michigan. And that would be a fun matchup with Tommy Lloyd and Dusty May. And however that would go, even if Duke wins and they play Michigan and you get that rematch, or you get Duke and Arizona, that would be really fun. Or if it's Florida, Michigan, Florida, Arizona, that would be really good. If you look at this bracket, Garrett, and I know that we haven't fully filled out everyone's bracket, I walk away from that conversation, if there's going to be some unexpected team in the Final Four, I think it's going to be in the South. Like I look at the South, Florida, it's just so tough to win back-to-back. I look at then the other, like Houston's a heck of a team. Illinois is good. Nebraska, but it's not like I jump up and down this year on any of those 4 teams. I don't think Vanderbilt's going to get there. Who knows with Clemson? A&M. I know we had Bucky McMillan on the other week, but they didn't get out to a hot start in that SEC tournament. That's going to be the region where if you're filling out a bracket and you're going to go a little funky, it may be the South. Like I do wonder. And a lot of people are going to pick Duke, but I wonder if you're trying to win the bracket, if it may be better than to fade Duke. That's the other thing, because I think Duke is the best team in the country.
Right.
But their draw is effing tough.
It is. I'm kind of like with Coach. When I did mine, I didn't have all 4 number 1 seeds. I had 3 of 4 number 1 seeds. And I had Houston coming in as a number 2. But I had Duke, Arizona, and Michigan. So I'm kind of there with him. I don't think we're going to see any surprises. Looking this morning, one thing I did find interesting is ESPN.com had Jay Billis kind of going through his bracket and how he was seeing things unfold. He's got Michigan State upsetting Duke and making it to the Final Four, which I don't see happening. But if that happened, that could probably be the one that you could say would be the surprise. But I don't really see any surprises happening.
So I think Michigan State's one of those teams you don't want to play them.
Right.
But when I'm filling out a bracket, I can't have confidence in putting them in the Final Four.
No.
Like, if I look at, and there are 3, and they have Duke and UConn 1 and 2. Mm-hmm. I'm not picking Michigan State over Duke or UConn. I'm just not. And the road for Michigan State to get there, they have to beat North Dakota. Then they get the winner of Louisville, South Florida. Like, they should be in the Sweet 16, Michigan State. But then after that, you're going to get either St. John's or probably Kansas.
Yeah, you're out.
Yeah, I don't think you're beating St. John's. Kansas you could beat. And then even if you win that, then you got to go probably beat Duke. Yeah. Unless if Ohio State or TCU picks them off, which I don't anticipate. So I look at just 1, 2, and 3 in each region. If, let's say, you could only pick 1, 2, and 3, if those could only be your selections, like the first 3 seeds, and that's just going to be one of those years where it's the top dogs on steroids, and every team in the Final Four is at least going to be a 1 through a 3 seed. I'm putting Duke and UConn over Michigan State. In the South, I would put Houston over Florida right now. Mm-hmm. And then, you know what? I may even put Illinois over Florida.
I've seen Illinois get a lot of praise. There's a lot of people giving praise for Illinois.
And I like Condon a lot. I like the kid that came over from Princeton, but and Golden's such a good coach, but can I see Todd Golden back-to-back years win a national championship? Like, even getting into the Final Four, the guy's a heck of a coach, right? Look what he's done. But it doesn't resonate with me right there, if I'm just being honest.
No.
Then you have Michigan, Iowa State, and Virginia. I would say, in terms of the 3 seeds, man, Virginia's probably a worse 3 seed than Michigan State.
Yes. I would
like
agree.
Iowa State or Michigan should get to the Final Four. But that could be the South and the Midwest is where something funky could happen.
Yeah.
That's where something funky could happen. And then you take a look at the West, you got Arizona, you got Purdue, and you got Gonzaga. I don't love Few's squad this year, but let's be real. Maybe for Few, it's a year where you just don't expect it to happen. And you look at Arizona and Purdue, it's Arizona should get there.
They should.
They
better.
If you put a gun to my head in the West and you said, Zach, you get 2 picks, right? 2 picks to get to the Final Four out in the West. Just give me the 2 teams that you would pick. I'll give you all 16. Arizona, Long Island, Villanova, Utah State, Wisconsin, High Point, Arkansas, Hawaii, BYU. We'll see who ends up playing BYU because first 4-game Gonzaga, Kennesaw State, Miami, Missouri, Purdue, Queens. Who's the 2 teams that you would take?
I'm taking Arizona Oh man, was Duke in that?
No.
Say them again. I apologize.
So
Arizona.
Arizona, Long Island, Villanova, Utah State, Wisconsin, High Point, Arkansas, Hawaii, BYU, Gonzaga, Kennesaw State, Miami, Missouri, Purdue, and Queens.
Purdue. I'm taking Purdue and Arizona.
I would go Arizona, Arkansas right now.
Okay.
All right, let's do this in the Midwest. You could only take 2 teams to go to the Final Four, just out of the Midwest. You get 2 choices. 1 or 2 of them got to be right, or else your bracket's over. Michigan, Georgia, St. Louis, Texas Tech, Akron, Alabama, Hofstra, Tennessee, Virginia, Wright State, Kentucky, Santa Clara, Iowa State, and Tennessee State.
I'm going Iowa State and Michigan.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. I thought maybe going Alabama, but yeah, I don't think the arrest is a huge deal, but I got to see what happens after that. Florida, Clemson, Iowa, Vanderbilt, McNeese, Nebraska, Troy, UNC, VCU, Illinois, Penn, St. Mary's, A&M, Houston, Idaho. Who are your 2?
Houston and Jesus.
You're gonna go Florida.
No, dude, I hate Florida. I'll shake it up and go Gonzaga. I'll just shake it up and go Gonzaga. I don't trust that at all, but I'll shake it up and go Gonzaga.
Wait, how are you going Gonzaga? Wait,
did you say Gonzaga?
No. I didn't say Gonzaga.
I could have swore I heard you say Gonzaga.
Florida, Clemson, Iowa, Vanderbilt, McNeese, Nebraska, Troy, North Carolina, VCU, Illinois, Penn, St. Mary's, Texas A&M, Houston, Idaho. You're going Houston, and who else?
I'll go St. Mary's.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm just throwing shit out there on that one.
I would go Illinois there.
Okay.
And then would you take Duke and would you take UConn in the other spot if I asked you that with that loaded East?
Probably so. I think, yeah, because I really think it's going to come down to, I would go with those 2 teams.
Yeah, I would probably say so. I would kind of love, though, St. John's UConn round 4.
I hope we get that.
Because,
I don't think we're getting it, but I hope we do.
Because I did the first game for Compass, and St. John's beat UConn.
Mm-hmm.
Then the second game, UConn kicked the shit out of St. John's just a few weeks ago. And then St. John's got the revenge. If they played a 4th time, I don't care what the spread is. I think I'd take the Huskies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Caravan's one of those players. And I haven't filled out my bracket yet. And, like, it wouldn't shock me if I end up putting Duke in the Final Four. But Caravan's one of those players, like, is his college career really not going to end in the Final Four when he's won 2 national championships? Not win a championship again.
Right.
But he's already won 2. Is he not going to have his career end in the Final Four? Like, he seems like a player's resume that his career deserves to end in the Final Four. I may get a little funky with this bracket, honestly.
I would like to see it for him. I think you're right. He technically deserves it. I just don't see it happening. I don't see him getting to the Final Four.
I will reveal my bracket later in the week.
Okay.
But if you made me do it right now, I would say UConn in the Final Four. I would say Houston in the Final Four. I would then say Iowa State in the Final Four.
Okay.
And then Arkansas.
Okay.
I may get a little
I like that.
I may get a little funky with it this year.
Okay.
UConn as a 2. Houston as a 2. Iowa State as a 2. And then Arkansas. I could see myself potentially doing that. And if I had to pick a 1, I kind of may be more likely to go Arizona or Michigan. Because every Tom, Dick, and Harry is going to take Duke.
Yes.
Everyone's going to do it. And I usually don't I don't have this hatred for Duke. maybe this will be the year that I pick against Duke and I just go, anybody but Duke. I'm a sucker for Calipari. I love Calipari. I do. Yeah, I've always liked Calipari when he was at Memphis, and then obviously when he was at Kentucky. I know the last few years at Kentucky didn't work out for him.
Mhm.
And I met him. I walked into the convention center in Arkansas. I mean, in San Antonio with him, and we were just talking for 5-10 minutes. I've never met him.
Right.
And I just walked up. We were talking, walking down. I heard his voice. He was on the phone with someone, and then I turned around. I was, just talking. We were walking and talking for about 5 minutes. I've always liked Calipari. I've had a lot of years where I picked his teams to go far, and it has not worked out. So maybe this is going to happen again. So there's some addictions you just can't get rid of. I may be addicted to Calipari wherever he is. I always do like myself some John Calipari. So I may go funky with my every like I love Lapis. They going all number 1 seeds. Like, what fun is that to go all number 1 seeds? It's not like I'm going crazy. I went, well, I just say 3 2s and a 4. It's not as if I'm going with whatever bull crap you just have. St. Mary. Maybe I'll take.
I just pulled that out of my ass because I couldn't remember all the teams you said. Like, I'm looking at my bracket. I think the further.
I was wondering if you smoked a doob before the show, honestly, or something.
Not yet. After I will. But, about like I think the team I have, the lowest seed I have going the furthest in my bracket right now it's Tennessee at 6, and I have Iowa State beating them in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, and watch, we'll have like 10s and 9s in the Final Four, but I think that's probably right. Like, I would say right now, 5 and up would probably be my Final Four thought line.
Right.
Like, there's some years where I go, I'll get funky with it and go an 8 or a 9, just in one. I always have like one F around region and see what happens. There's really not a team that I gravitated towards there. That was not a top 5 seed.
One thing I did do, and it could bite me, but I really have confidence in this, is I got BYU losing first round. And I know like they don't know if they're playing Texas or NC State yet. I just do not like the way they finished the regular season.
I did not like how they finished the regular season as well. I know at one point they were unranked. I don't know if they finished unranked.
I can't remember. I think they were ranked. I could be totally no. You know what? I think they fell out of the rankings. You're right.
They fell out of the rankings because I know for one of the last games I did for Compass, which was 2 weeks ago, Compass Media Networks, that they were not there. I don't know if they got back in or not, but I kind of hope we see DeBansa go on some run here. Yeah, they were not ranked at the end of the year, 23-11.
Yeah, he needs to go on a run. I think like for him, for as much as they invested in him and as much eyeballs as he brought to them, he needs to go on a run. He needs to have a big tournament. I'm just not sold on it right now.
When it's weird to call BYU, an obscure school. Like, I don't mean it like that. But I remember growing up as a kid, I think it was when Frank Martin was there at Kansas State. And you saw Beasley was there, Michael Beasley.
Yeah.
Like that. Now, DeBansa is going to – now, Beasley ended up going to – I think he was the second pick in the draft, if memory serves me right. But that kind of gives me that vibe where, like, an individual player, and you're just watching that team for one player. No disrespect to the other players. So I would like to see DeBansa go on a run. Peter, I have no interest level in rooting for Kansas this year.
No.
None. I don't like that Peterson situation. I know Badunga is a good player, and they've done a good job when he does not play there. And Bill Self has been around for a long time. But you look at all these freshmen, I am not rooting for Darren Peters. You look at Darren if he goes on some run, it would be so college basketball. Where all year long, basically, it's like, oh, this kid's been a pain in the ass, and his representation has been a pain in the ass.
Yes.
And then he ends up going on some run and just basically shutting us all up.
So we've talked about the freshmen, and we've kind of hinted at the amount of freshmen that are what makes college basketball special this year.
Yeah.
Is there one in particular? Is like there one freshman that you stick out? You're like, damn, that's the one I'm really rooting for. Like mine's Kingston Flemings.
Oh yeah, I like Flemings. Acuff, and I think both Koa Pete and Braden Berries are both freshmen, right?
They're both freshmen. Yeah.
Yeah. I could root for both of them because I could root for the Tommy Lloyd getting the monkey off his back, but I would say it's Acuff because when he had that game up against Alabama, even though I think they lost that game, I know we've put the three guys up there this year,
right?
Where it's been DeBanza, it's been in no order Peterson and Boozer. I've really been most impressed with Acuff. Like he is, and Calipari said he's the best guard that he's ever coached with the amount of guards that he's had.
Yeah, that's saying something.
And I don't think John just gives a compliment to give a compliment. I don't. He's the. You know what? You call me a Jeremiah Love stan?
Oh, here we go.
I'm an Arkansas stan. I'm an Arkansas stan for this March Madness. Whoop pig, right?
Yeah, call the Hogs.
Whoop pig suey. Whoop pig suey. Whoop pig suey. Razorbacks.
Oh, my LSU fan just puked in my mouth a little bit.
Yeah, I remember Clint Sterner when I was doing the show for CBS Sports Radio. He joined me, and I called the Hogs for him. And someone was like, "It's a pig, not a wolf. You sound like a wolf." I go, shut the F up. It's like there's always some miserable prick out there all the time.
Always.
Oh, my God. All righty, Zach Gelb here with you on 365 Sports. We'll come on back. We'll wrap the show up with a little football. We'll get to some videos, the future of A.J. Brown, and then some when we continue after these short messages.
The 4-burner, side sear burner with Clearview glass stainless steel grill from Monument Grills. Made of tempered glass, which is strong, insulated, and allows you to check your grilling without lifting the lid. Our porcelain-coated cast iron cooking grids offer a large cooking surface of 513.3 square inches, primary cooking area, with even heat cooking. The Monument Grills include LED control knobs and are easy to light with pilotless electronic ignition. Better grilling, better value, Monument Grills.
Protect your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. Whether at home or on the go, NordVPN ensures your digital freedom. Stay secure. Download NordVPN today at nordvpn.com. That's NORDVPN.com.
I'm Abby Dommett, 2023 CrossFit Games athlete, and I use Airwave because it helps me breathe easier and stay more relaxed during my workouts. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very discreet.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All righty, wrap it up shop on a Monday. It is a Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports. You know, when I used to do the show out of a studio in New York City, Garrett, I didn't really have to be all that concerned with how loud I am, you know, because we're in a soundproof studio. I do wonder in my apartment complex here what my neighbors, if they are home, probably just thought when I was doing the woo pig, the pig suey chant, calling the Hogs.
That's a really good question. And I'm wondering the same. So like our studio here is essentially in an apartment complex. And I'm wondering all the time what the people above us think with how us do the show.
Well, yeah. Also, like, can you tell everyone to like shut the F up sometimes when you're doing the show there? There's sometimes I go to you're quiet now, but then I hear Paul bitching about something, and Smokey's barking orders or things like that. Then Andrew Villain also making noise. Like, come on.
I need a little nook where I can go in and do this.
No, you need to be a big dog and just tell everyone to shut the F up. I'm working on the Zach Gelb show, and that's that. Like, this is not your time to talk. You guys talk in about 15 minutes from now. Go to another room and prep.
I'll start saying that.
As I see Smokey walk right behind you in the background. And he's being quiet. I kind of wish he would like yell and just be freaking out.
I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of minutes.
I can't wait till he forgets that the show's live one day. And he comes in and he's just barking orders and going nuts and starts cursing up a storm. It would be really something.
I'm sure it's coming.
Let's Chase Daniel. This guy. I don't know Chase Daniel. I've never met him. His reactions to all these like videos that he posts are funny. He does that podcast with Diana Rossini. And whenever Diana Rossini says something with breaking news, she's like, I don't know. It sounds like he's always on a gummy. I don't know if he is or he isn't. But this was Chase Daniel's instant reaction to the Kansas City Chiefs signing trading for Justin Fields, as they're going to wait and see what happens with Patrick Mahomes. I have not watched this yet. But anytime I see Chase Daniels content, I always want to play it because I always am amused by the way that he sounds.
Chiefs just traded for quarterback Justin Fields from the Jets, and both of my worlds collide. I love this move so much. First of all, everyone knows that follow my channel, I really like Justin Fields. He's had a really tough go at it. He's been on 4 different teams in 4 years, but this will be his first time with an offensive head coach. Do you remember what Andy Reid did with Mike Vick? I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you can turn your career around. Patrick Mahomes got hurt on December 14th. ACL, among other things. His recovery is going well, but is he going to be back in time for the regular season? Look, in offseason, organized team activities, Justin Fields will get all the reps, probably in training camp. Justin Fields will get all of the reps. I mean, this just ensures that they have a legitimate backup in the Chiefs organization. But if for some reason Patrick Mahomes cannot get ready to go, I do think Justin Fields is going to play, and I think he's going to play well. I mean, could you imagine what Andy Reid's going to do with Justin Fields and Kenneth Walker and Rashee Rice and a receiver they're probably going to draft in the first round? Look, Mahomes is the guy, but we don't know about Patrick Mahomes' recovery. I love this move, not only for the Chiefs, but for Justin Fields' career trajectory. If he has a good year, if he gets everything that he needs to know mentally on tap, maybe he can further his career.
I'll ask you this, Garrett. When that video was done recording, do you think he grabbed a tissue to blow his nose, or did you think he grabbed a bag of Doritos to munch on?
Probably the Doritos first, and then he could multitask with the fingers off and the nose. So I think that's how he did it.
I don't know if he just smoked something or if he was just fighting a cold there. I thought at times that he had a cold. I also thought at some times maybe he was, doing what the Alabama basketball player did.
I mean, I don't know. If you're high on Justin Fields, you might be high on something else. I'm just saying.
Let's go to Ian Rappaport. The Eagles rectified their situation with Dallas Goedert. Now, what's the next step? Goddard. I don't know why I said that with an accent. Now let's see what the next steps are when it comes to them potentially trading A.J. Brown.
Question, because that's really, Kyle, the other big part of this thing. Because the void date got moved back so many times, people assume that, all right, it is one for the other. First of all, A.J. Brown's situation, I would say at various times over the last 3 days, looked like one thing was definitely going to happen, and then it was clear something else was going to happen. There were various points that I really firmly believed A.J. Brown was going to be traded. And there were, originally I would say there were 4 teams that were interested that Brown would really like to go to. In the end, probably 2. The Rams were 1, and they looked into it deeply, ultimately decided it was not for them, and they are essentially, as far as I can tell, out on this situation. The New England Patriots, who have had consistent dialogue with the Eagles and A.J. Brown, they are still in it. Now, part of the problem here, and the reason why the cap number was such a big thing, if the Eagles traded A.J. Brown now, it would be $40 million gets accelerated into their cap in dead money. If they do it after June 1st, it's just $20 million. That's $20 million less. That is a lot of money. So actually, it makes sense for the Eagles if they are going to trade A.J. Brown, which, again, there was momentum to do at various times here. Trading him after June 1st makes sense. What that means is it wouldn't be 2026 draft picks if he was traded. It would be 2027. I mean, the cap hit would be less. It would also mean that we might be talking about A.J. Brown into June, which is okay because you don't play games until like September. So if A.J. Brown was traded to, let's say, the Patriots in June, it would be the same result as now, except, we'd get 2 more extra months to talk about it.
I do wonder if the Patriots wait till June, if the price goes down. Like you're saving or helping the Eagles out in a cap space. I would think a 1 and a 3 would get it done right now. Could it maybe make it a 2 and a 4? I'm just asking the question. That I don't know the answer to. And finally, I've been impressed with the World Baseball Classic. I'm not a big World Baseball Classic guy. Olympic hockey, I was all in, and I just grew up with it. And it's something I always gravitated towards. When they introduced this World Baseball Classic, it was new. It didn't really resonate with me. I thought it was cool a few years ago when you had Ohtani going up against Trout. Like, that was awesome. But over the weekend, when I was on this bachelor party with my friends, was watching, it was the Venezuela-Japan game, and I was shocked by how loud the crowds were there. And now the U.S. is in the championship. We'll see who they end up going on to play. But there's been a lot of buzz with this World Baseball Classic. But let's listen up to Aaron Judge. I know these comments are not going to play well in New York. Listen to what Aaron Judge had to say.
It's been bigger. World Series I was in, the crowd here, the crowd we had when we played against Mexico, it's bigger and better than the World Series. It's just, like I said, the passion that these fans have representing their country, representing some of their favorite players, there's nothing like it. And that's what you dream of as a kid. When I was betting in my backyard, playing wiffle ball, this is the moments you dream of, big spots, big situations, and it gives me chills right now thinking about how special that was. I try to take a moment every game to kind of look around, appreciate the crowd, appreciate the moment, and it's just a blessing that we get to go out there and do our thing.
If I was a Yankee fan today, I'd be furious. Aaron Judge, one of the best baseball players that we have on the planet, but you haven't won a World Series. And when you were in the World Series, it was a dud up against the Dodgers. So I could understand why maybe the environment wasn't so great. But saying that the environment in the World Baseball Classic is better than the World Series, even if you think that, when you're the captain of the Yankees, when you are the leader of the Yankees, and that's your job, and I understand this is a passion representing your country, but it's on the Olympics and all that, don't love that answer. Like, I'm not a Yankee fan, so it doesn't matter to me. But if I was a Yankee fan, I'd be saying, even if you think that's the right message, I don't think you could be the messenger on that one. Let somebody else say it. And that will do it for a Monday edition of the Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports. Big thanks to Steve Lapis for joining us today. Big thanks to Logan. Big thanks to Andrew. Big thanks to Garrett, and big thanks to each and every one of you for tuning on in. You can follow me Twitter and Instagram at Zach Gelb, ZACH@GELB, also on TikTok at The Zach Gelb Show. And you could always get at me, youtube.com/@365SportsYT, youtube.com/@365SportsYT. Subscribe to our channel. John Fanta, March Madness, really here when John Fanta joins us. He will join us tomorrow live at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The show gets underway at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, as we're here Monday through Friday from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 to 3 p.m. Central. We'll talk to you tomorrow, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.